I am so excited for today's session of Skills Fact or Fiction. My name is Karina Lamb, and I'm the Global Leader for HR Tech Advisory at Mercer. Today, we have an incredible session. We are here joined by Mercer, AKT, and SAP to focus on sharing the world of skills-powered organizations. Mercer is going to share invaluable insights on skills and job architecture from the advisory lens. SAP is going to share it from a technology perspective, and AKT is going to close us out from an implementation perspective. The things that we need to know, the guidance of all of it that brings everything to life. So on the agenda, we've got three key components. As I've mentioned, we're going to be led from a Mercer perspective on skills and the future of work. Then SAP Success Factors, we're going to give a spotlight from a product perspective. And then last but not least, the implementation guidance by AKT. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Brian Fisher. Brian, over to you.
Thanks, Karina. Yes, I'm excited to be here. I know I'm one of three additional presenters here today. So my role and what I do is, while I am based in the U.S., I have a global responsibility to advance skills-powered practices among our clients globally. Now, I come from a talent and workforce advisory and strategy background, so not a heavy technology background. However, front and center of every client conversation that I have is how do we enable our talent strategy? How do we enable our skills-powered practices through technology? And so looking forward to the rest of the conversation, hearing from Rebecca and Eaton as we go today. So I'm going to jump in. Hey, Karina, I'm going to ask you, maybe a little true or false. We talked about this being fact or fiction. So, here, true or false? There's no wrong answers. Today's HR practices are skills-based. What do you say, Karina?
We did not rehearse this. I'm going to take a wild guess and say true.
Okay, true. Okay, well, that's not surprising because I know you are out and about. You read a lot of journal articles. You attend a lot of conferences and attend a lot of webinars like this. And so if you read the headlines, absolutely, HR processes are skills-based. Now, there's a little nuance there, right? Is it all skills-powered practices or are all HR processes powered by skills? Well, what we've learned, and what I mean by that is there's a kind of a fundamental shift between job-based and skills-based, right? And so absolutely, when you see some of the things on the screen like career planning or hiring, are we doing this where the logic for the decisions are based on the job that an incumbent sat in or their job history? Or are we now hiring or planning our workforce or resourcing projects based on skills? Now, here's what we learned in our survey. This survey is yet to come out. We just concluded it over the past month, but 7 in 10 companies said, yes, we consider skills when it comes to career planning and talent acquisition and performance management. A little bit fewer said, yes, we do it in learning. About half say they consider skills in reward, succession management, and workforce planning, but only about a quarter consider skills when it comes to projects and gigs and staffing projects or also designing work. Now, the question that we asked was, are you incorporating skills into these processes? I do want to say I think there's a little bit of fact or fiction even in this data, because when we dug deeper, and let's just take rewards as an example. When we dug deeper and said, okay, really, half of you are considering skills when you're making pay decisions, we learned that really only 1 in 5 say they truly have a rewarding for skill program, meaning that a data element in their process is skills, and that triggers a different set of rewards or a different decision around how they pay people. And that's only for one team or one project or one function in an organization. It could be all, but what we've learned is that it's really just for at least one team or function. So because of this, that is why you'll notice the terminology skills powered. Mercer, we've adopted this concept of skills powered organizations versus skills based organizations because it's about pace, it's about timing, it's about moving at the speed that your organization can move into. And so I like the idea that you have all of these processes on the right side of the screen. At your time, you power those on with skills, right? You power learning based on skills. You power up pay based on skills. You power up talent acquisition based on skills. It does not mean you have to do it all at once. And it doesn't mean you have to have every decision around, for instance, talent acquisition based on skills. But what it means is you're powering those decisions with skills data. So I'm going to ask another question. Karina, tomorrow's HR processes, are they skills powered, true or false?
I'm going to go with true.
Hey, we'll call you, the modern day Nostradamus. How about that? And so the reason you're correct is the pace of change the pace of change is fundamentally complex and unpredictable. And what organizations are realizing is in order to keep pace, whether that's with the acceleration of AI, whether that's with different work models, whether that is, ESG factors and the importance of sustainability, where they're all landing is that skills really needs to become the currency of the market. And so what we've learned is from a business agenda, because of all this, that organizations are planning and structuring and designing work to increase productivity, enabling growth, reducing cost, and exhibiting flexibility as needed. And then the HR folks, well, on their agenda is reimagining HR processes designed around skills to attract and retain. And because of this, leading employers are establishing skills as that common thread across the labor market, really as the integrator across HR and business agendas. And so what does that mean and why? Well, why is there are really three critical capabilities. Really, when I talk to clients, I say, if you want to win in tomorrow's future of work, you need to be world-class at three things. You need to be world-class at designing work. That means considering how AI and automation is upon us. How can you leverage that in order to redesign work in an optimal way? You need to be world-class at developing skills because the pace of change is so quick. You need to very quickly develop the skills that are most valuable to your organization and to your customers. And you need to deploy talent. So you need to be lightning fast at shifting and being flexible on deploying talent to the most urgent needs of the business. Now, I want to jump into how AI is really impacting each of these three. And so when we talk about designing work, AI is really one of the prime movers here. Because of AI and automation, organizations are constantly reviewing how work is being done. Now, these aren't just simple improvements, right? We can say, hey, Brian, I'm going to give you this chat GPT. How does that help how does that help the work that you do? And I might say, well, yeah, it can make me more efficient. I can write articles quicker. It's a good first step. But what we believe at Mercer is that organizations that have a standard and established process to deconstruct work at first, right? If you just say, hey, finance function, here are some AI tools. How can that help you? what you need to do first is you actually deconstruct the work into tasks and skills. And when you have those tasks and skills, that's when you can say task A, task B, task C, how can we do those differently? Can AI or automation augment, replace that task? How could we, from a talent model perspective, deploy that task or delegate that task in a different way? And when we truly look at AI and automation and also new talent models and new ways of working, and we look to, again, we look to for work substitution or augmentation from an AI perspective, alternative talent models like shared services, agile talent teams, internal talent marketplaces, and then ultimately try to redeploy work to lower levels. Well, what happens is you're able to reconstruct work, whether that's a project, gig, or a new job, that it optimizes those new ways of working. And the key thing there is the ROI in the work design phase is all about, is measured in terms of capacity release, cost reduction, productivity, and increase in labor agility. And so as I move on, so we talked about how AI is really driving how we design work. AI and its role on developing skills. For sure, when it comes to developing skills here, really there's 4 things that you need to do to be able to develop skills. And those are, you need to identify the future skills. Well, AI is able to do that, right? You're able to look in the external marketplace, see how skills are emerging and waning, what's around the corner. You need to be able to inventory your current skills. You need to be able to analyze the gaps, and then you develop learning pathways. AI, and we'll hear a little bit about from SAP SuccessFactors on their functionality here, allows you to use inferred skills to understand the current skills of your workforce, able to compare work versus the employee skills in order to analyze those gaps, and then embed skills in learning curriculum and learning activities to ensure that you have personalized learning pathways for individuals. So really, skills and AI are really changing the game as it relates to how do you develop skills. And then how you deploy skills. What's really important here is how can we flex and how can we be agile and flex more talent to projects, gigs, or work that is deemed most important. This really unlocks productivity as you flow talent around the organization. SAP SuccessFactors, as we'll hear a little bit later, has the opportunity marketplace, which is designed to do just that. And it's really driven on AI, right? It's driven on the Talent Intelligence Hub and the intelligence at the skill level about matching people to work, people to learning, people to development. And that's how AI is able to help deploy talent in the new future of work. Now, how do organizations do this? Well, the key here's a couple keys. Organizations oftentimes are trying to they sometimes will put skills in a box, and they might think of only one of the 3 columns on the right. They might say, "Oh, we want to use skills to develop and reward, maybe from a career pathing perspective." Or we want to modernize our talent deployment in the 4th box, like around talent acquisition. And what we know is you can make great strides on any individual use case and gain a lot of benefits. But what is true is you won't be able to create sustainable value and do skills at scale without going to the far left and ensuring that you're aligned on your vision and prioritization of how you're using skills. That you go to the 2nd column and you build a strong foundation, job profiles underpinned by good quality skills data and the ability to measure skills at the individual level. And then ultimately you see the long line at the bottom that this is enabled through digital enablement services, strong change activation, digital strategy, maximizing the value of the wonderful technology that is available to us today. And with that, I think it's a nice segue into the conversation with Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Regan-Thiem, and I'm a member of the product strategy team at SuccessFactors. Our colleagues in the Growth and Insights team are a team of industrial organizational psychologists who study all kinds of things about the HR market and talk with our customers all the time. They've been doing a review of HR meta trends every year for the past 5 years, and you can see on this slide that skills have been at the top of the list for all of those years. Last year, we actually had 2 skills-related trends. Number 1 was winning the race for skills, and the other was mobilizing the workforce for the future. And here in 2024, we're seeing that skills have become the center of a lot of HR practices for our customers and in the market in general. So just like Mercer, we're doing a lot of research. We're actually doing or have done several specific discrete studies with groups of our customers, with the HR leaders, as well as their employees, to talk about different aspects of skills in the workplace. And what I'm going to present to you next is a little bit of the theory behind why we have focused in the last 3 years on building the Talent Intelligence Hub. So our team has done several discrete studies with our customers, with the HR leaders, the CHROs, and even their employees, and learned a lot of things about how skills-based processes, what they mean to them, and how they are perceived in their organizations. On the leadership side, we see that HR leaders are really looking for a bunch of different benefits from bringing skills into the mix. They're looking to make their decisions on talent, whether it be hiring, promotion, successors, more fair and equitable. They're really expanding their talent pools by reducing the reliance on old-fashioned certifications, education, criteria that we used to use to hire people, and looking at criteria that are, again, more equitable, more easily accessible for some folks. Maybe we don't need a university degree to have that coding experience in the software world, for example. We also just plain get people a much better understanding of their workforce, what they can do, helping them to find people who have skills that are important to their organization, maybe from a job that they held before they worked for that company. And so they're not associated with their current role, but that person brings those skills to the table. And then, of course, we can do things faster when we have good data. We can justify our decisions. We can justify our programs and get that budget. There's a lot of good stuff that happens, of course, when you have the information upon which to base your decisions. And for employees, it really brings a lot of autonomy and a sense of owning their own career development when they have the information, what's expected of them in their role, and what's expected of them if they want to advance to another role or be participating in a particular program or on a certain new team. All of these things are much more clear to the employees when you have skills in the process. And then within SuccessFactors, using the Talent Intelligence Hub that I'll talk about in the next slide, we bring a lot of wonderful things sort of into a virtuous cycle by keeping skills in the mix. So we start with a better hire. We're hiring, again, like I said, on those newer, more agile, more modern criteria. We have actually AI-powered functionality inside SuccessFactors to help you figure out the skills that are associated with a job requisition, and then find the candidates who have the best skill match for that requisition. We also, once we onboard people, we're giving them very clear expectations, what's needed to get the work done. We also keep their skills data current, first of all, by automatically populating whatever is associated with their job. And then additionally, within SuccessFactors, we have some AI-powered functionality coming in the second half release that helps people who are using the continuous performance management module to get skills automatically suggested to them in the growth portfolio in Talent Intelligence Hub, so that they can say, yes, I do have that skill, or yes, I do want to get that skill. So really aiding and making it easier for people to keep that skills data up to date. We're, of course, also working with some great partners that can use AI as well to get this information based on other data sources, such as the work systems that they're working in, like a ticketing system or potentially a chat system. This is something some folks love, some folks don't love, but we have a lot of options with our partners. Then we have inspiring recommendations coming throughout the SuccessFactors system and throughout your processes, so I can get great growth and learning recommendations in Opportunity Marketplace based on the things that I say I'm interested in, the skills that I have, things that maybe I have a little bit of a skill gap between what my level of proficiency is and what's the level expected from my job. All of these things drive great recommendations and really guide people in their career growth. And then when they do those growth opportunities, we're tracking that engagement so that we can see that someone has really been practicing a certain skill. And we can also see when they've maybe let that skill fall a little bit by the wayside. They're not using that particular skill that much. And that can be used to get a sense of really who are people who are very current in their proficiency. And then those folks are going to be the ones you not only are hiring people from the outside, but we're going to use skills to help you staff those agile dynamic teams and increase internal mobility, help people really know who's in the workforce who can help meet a particular need at a particular time. So this virtuous cycle, really each of those steps enriches the data that's going into the next steps, making all of this really just a great, rich data source over time. So how does SuccessFactors make all this happen? We use the Talent Intelligence Hub. This is functionality in your platform in SuccessFactors that supports understanding the job architecture. So we have Job Profile Builder, where your job roles and job families and that mapping of skills to roles is going to take place. And then we have Talent Intelligence Hub, which consists of the admin side, where you're going to set up your skills library, or you're going to be bringing in a skills library from a partner such as Mercer or an AI process. And then you also have the user experience, the growth portfolio, where people see the skills that are expected of them. They can add more skills. You can see the timeline, and they can actually also get those recommendations for upskilling directly in that experience. So Talent Intelligence Hub has this user experience for both admins and employees, but it is also itself a data model and that data source. And that data source really interacts, as I've already described, with all the different solutions inside SuccessFactors, everything from recruiting to onboarding through to learning and development. You can include these things in performance and goals so that you can do some skills-based pay. And of course, in succession and other internal sourcing situations, you've got that data model and that data from Talent Intelligence Hub available. In addition, we are also bringing Talent Intelligence Hub data into other SAP solutions, such as Fieldglass, where people can be rated on the same skills using the same library that you've set up in SuccessFactors. And they can be rated on the same scale of proficiency. And what that enables then is in S4, someone can staff a project with the right people, with the right skills, at the right level, whether or not they're actually employees who are in SuccessFactors or they're potential contractors who they're finding through Fieldglass, allowing you to bring those two populations together and find the right person no matter what, comparing apples to apples and using the same language. Certified integration with the Talent Intelligence Hub, including the Job Profile Builder, so that we can say together to our mutual customers, you know that this wonderful IP that's coming from Mercer, or potentially some AI sourced skills that is coming from a different one of our partners, those data are going to flow into SuccessFactors successfully. So we are testing those. We're working together to make sure that everyone's data is coming into the system in a way that they feel is appropriate for their intellectual property, like Mercer's. And we're really happy to be able to suggest these are great partners for our folks to work with, our customers. We know a lot of people are having a little concern about how to get started. These partnerships are a great way to just get that whole process jump-started. And with a partner like Mercer, you obviously have wonderful consulting offerings as well. So just to sum up my part of the talk, Talent Intelligence Hub is the way that we make skills-based processes possible in SuccessFactors. We're using that single data model, so we really are talking the same language throughout all of SAP. We're going to help you find hidden gems and increase your funnel for both internal and external staffing and sourcing. We're going to democratize access to opportunities, to possibilities to job shadow, to teams that are doing the hot new thing. We're going to make that possible for people who have the qualifications that are really needed above and beyond, or perhaps totally instead of whatever educational experience and the more traditional criteria that we use, whatever those qualifications might be. we're making sure that you have someone who can do the work and who's interested in doing the work, so they're really going to bring a lot of value and thrive. And then, of course, we use all that information to inspire people and guide them in their career development throughout all of the SuccessFactors system. Again, because we're using Talent Intelligence Hub across all of our solutions. So with that, I'll hand it over to AKT, and thank you all very much for spending a few minutes with me.
Hey, thank you, Rebecca. My name is Eitan Bernstein. I'm a partner at AKT, and I get to build on the shoulders of giants. AKT as a implementation partner basically gets to sit and leverage the great thought leadership and research and direction that Mercer, our partner, builds, and leverage the product excellence and the technology that SAP creates, and put those together in our work in the daily, on the ground, where the rubber meets the road, with our customers, and deal with many of the daily challenges and implementation elements that many of our customers meet. And I want to use this time to share a few experiences and tips and guidance from the implementation challenges and journeys that we've gone through with customers. These are just a few examples of the key things we see learning as we're working with those customers. So Brian mentioned how important it is to set in place the foundations, to put in place the core of this so that it really builds, so that all the practices build on top of that. And historically, when I've been in this business for many, many years, we used to do projects for months and maybe even years of analyzing skills and interviewing managers. And people think, oh, putting in place this infrastructure can be an incredibly difficult project. Well, no, we don't really do that very often anymore. There are ways to put in place a robust and advanced skills architecture by leveraging other practices. One approach which many organizations, many of our customers take, is do a top-down approach. Take an off-the-shelf job skills and skills architecture that has been based on research, on common practices, on continuously adopted, and implement that as the baseline for organizations. It's the fastest way to get going with proven models of skills and jobs that work. A lot of organizations think that's a great way to start, and we do as well, but feel that may not always fit exactly to the specific needs of my organization, my culture, my industry, and want something that's more adept to our needs. A different approach that is supported by SAP SuccessFactors capabilities is to bring a bottom-up approach, leveraging the AI skills extraction from job descriptions. Basically say, let the AI analyze our existing job descriptions and infer the skills out of that, then allowing human professionals to review that and define which of those skills we want to include in our library. And the truth is that probably the best practice is a gradual combination of the two. Start with a structured taxonomy that's based on research, based on best practices, but also leverage the unique elements of your organization, deriving the learning from the job descriptions to tweak and improve and make your skills architecture for your organization the best fit to the specific needs, industry, and challenges of your organization. A second thing that we see a lot of organizations addressing and we deal with it in our implementation processes is how do you take this enormous challenge of transitioning all of our business processes, all of our use cases across HR into a skills-powered world. And as Brian said so eloquently, this is not a one-time thing. This is a journey, and it's to do it right at your time. And our recommendation based on our experience with our customers is to think about this as a use case-driven design. In other words, they can't address all use cases at once. You can't roll this out across all the different business processes in one day. It's a journey. And looking at this as a use case step by step and building a realistic roadmap is really critical doing that. And think about which use cases create the most value for you in the short term, which ones in the long term, which ones build on top of each other. And really important from our experience is not just think about the long-term result and the long-term vision, but actually how deploying skills in each specific use case generates real value and builds confidence for the next use case. Because this is a long journey, because there are many steps in this implementation, because the results don't necessarily get achieved in any use case overnight, it's really, really critical that each one of the use cases, when implemented, shows real value and builds confidence both in the professionals rolling this out and in the managers and individuals in the organization that this is creating value, this is adding things to the organization, and not saying this will only create value when we have the entire suite rolled out and everything working. That's really important in both selecting which use cases to start with, and also in making sure that you're really extracting and showcasing and building confidence out of each use case before moving on to the next one, so that you're gaining the momentum and building the confidence to do that. The third thing relates to the way SuccessFactors modules interact with each other, build on top of each other, and so on. So Rebecca introduced the Talent Intelligence Hub in her slides. Now that's a really important foundation that many of the modules, as she showed in her slide, build on top of. There are interdependencies between those modules and connections as well. And so selecting the roadmap to roll the different modules out and connect the different modules to the Talent Intelligence Hub and leverage the skills, it requires thinking about how will this impact each of the processes. How does each standalone process benefit from the former ones or the next ones? And when is the right order to do things? And it's important to understand that this is not perfect from the beginning. And so allowing for imperfection where one module and one use case already is skill-based and some of the others are not yet. And of course that will get criticized. Wait a minute, why isn't this all working that way? Well, because it's a process. And a lot of organizations are dying to already have the full-fledged value of the opportunity marketplace, right? That's the vision for many organizations, is that dynamic ability of individuals and across my organizations to see skill-based growth opportunities and deployment opportunities. But of course, that takes time to build up and it needs to sit successfully on top of many of the other modules. So take that into account as you're planning your roadmap and as you're setting expectations for the project team and for the executives and sponsors and customers of the project. A fourth really important thing is to include the skills-related analytics in the work you do from the beginning. Changes of skills in the organization take time. They don't happen overnight. And they're the result both of deliberate interventions like recruiting specific skills or promoting people with specific skills or reskilling and upskilling projects, right? Or learning development and so on. But they're also the result of unintentional events. Specific groups of people leaving the organization, changes in structure, divestitures, and so on may cause loss of skills in the organization or changes in the mix of skills across the organization. So it's not all just planned and not all by design. And therefore, as you're rolling out your skills-powered organizational strategy and roadmap, it's really critical from the beginning to have in place the analytics to be able to track how, as you're rolling this out, how different interventions and different additions to your technical capabilities on SuccessFactors get immediate feedback on those changes and can make the appropriate adjustments to your focus, to where you're spending time and energy. This is really critical, just like analytics in general, but putting in place from the beginning and not when we have all the data, we'll start measuring it. No, from very early on, it's essential to support this journey and the roadmap with the data and analytics and visibility and be able to present that to the different stakeholders of the project so that you can show the value as it emerges out of this investment. And of course, we can't underestimate the importance of change management in communication. Brian emphasized how important this is in this process. When we go into looking at change and communication in a skills transformation, we need to remember that we have very different populations, that each one of them experience the change around skills-based implementations in a very different way. Individuals in the organization experience this as learning a new language about who I am, what my capabilities are, what my development opportunities are, where I need to strengthen and learn new things, where I can upskill, and so on. People managers need to develop new skills in assessing the capability skills of individuals, in giving them feedback about those, and in directing individuals, their employees, to development opportunities so that they can improve and build on skills that are needed for the organization. HR professionals need to learn how to implement skills into all processes they design and use skills as part of their coaching work with executives and managers in the organization. And senior executives need to start looking through the filter of skills at the organization, where we have gaps in skills, where are we going to develop them, are we going to buy versus build skills in the organization. So each of these different stakeholders need their own unique intervention, their own unique support to build up these new capabilities and take them through this learning process. So since this is a long process with multiple stakeholders, we need to make sure we have robust change management governance mechanisms in place, continuous feedback through the analytics, and feedback directly from the individuals and stakeholders to ensure that this truly achieves its value over time. Those are just 5 recommendations from us, and of course there are many other opportunities and challenges as you're implementing these, and we're happy to partner with additional organizations to do that.
All right, thank you, man. It's a lot of good information today, and I just want to follow up on something that Eden said is really important, right? A lot of folks are at the starting gate. They're looking at this journey. Sometimes it can look intimidating. They don't know where to start, and the best thing, and I really remember what Eden said, is you don't let perfection get in the way of progress. It's not going to be perfect, so take that first step. I have a client that said that his mantra is start something small, stupid, right? Like that was his saying, is he just needs to start something small, like do that right now, and learn from it, right? The way I think about things is there are simple no regrets moves. And when you think about a system implementation, you think, are you ever going to look back and say, I wish I didn't have a strong job architecture embedded in my SAP success factors. I wish I didn't know a lot about these jobs and what skills are most important for these jobs. It's okay that you don't know exactly how you're going to use every process and embed every bell and whistle. But there are some no regrets moves that you're never going to look back on and say, I wish I didn't know this about my workforce. So I'll leave you with that as a way to kind of get off the starting gate, is to look for something simple and look for those no regret moves. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. You see our names here. Feel free to get in contact with us if you have any questions or comments. Karina, you started us off. You have any other last comments as we close?
No, that's perfect. That's a perfect wrap up, Brian. Thank you so much. Again, as Brian had mentioned, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help, and hopefully you had a view into the world of skills-powered organization. Thank you.